Your property taxes in Colorado, they're going up this year, and for many, this is going to be a huge shock. This week, Governor Polis announced new legislation aimed at reducing property values and providing immediate tax relief for homeowners. Governor Polis says he's trying to solve three problems with this last-minute proposal. Immediate tax relief while providing predictability for property owners over time. A long-term replacement to the Gallagher Amendment, which was repealed by voters in 2020. And finally,
and third, a mechanism to prevent rates from going up faster than income.
We can also, at the same time, protect the funding for our schools, our fire districts, our local governments that we all rely on every day.
This legislation would give voters the option to decide the future of property tax policy at the polls come November. The governor says he is confident this legislation would pass, but not so fast. We heard from Republican leaders this afternoon at the Capitol pushing back against the governor's proposal. Senate Minority Leader Paul Lundeen of Monument says, quote, "This is not a tax cut." He goes on to say the governor is not dealing with the facts. The Coloradans' property taxes will still go up, and their tax refunds will decrease, he said. He also went on to say, quote, that Governor Polis and Democrats need to stop using smoke and mirrors and work with us, Republicans, to develop an honest and permanent solution.
And with this latest proposal, we wanted to take a look at just how we got here.
Yeah, part of this new plan includes a reduction in the residential assessment rate, and that percentage has a history in Colorado. So, breaking it down for us tonight, let's bring in Alasyn Zimmerman.
Hey, Rob and Diane, remember what happened in 2020? Not the pandemic. We're actually talking about the repeal of that Gallagher Amendment. It was something passed in the 80s to try and ease the tax burden on homeowners when it comes to the state's property tax base. Colorado voters, though, did decide to get rid of it in 2020, but we want to give you a quick refresher on that amendment. It started in 1982 when voters said, oh yeah, thumbs up to a plan created by the state legislature. It took off some tax pressure on homeowners by creating the Gallagher Amendment. It said only 45% of the state's property tax base can come from homeowners. Businesses would make up the other 55%. The split was maintained by lowering the residential assessment rate for homeowners. Back in 1982, the rate was 21%. By 2020, it was 7.1%. That rate is one part of the equation to figure out just how much money you owe in property taxes. It also kept the non-residential assessment rate at 29% for most industries. Essentially, with Gallagher in place, if home prices went up, that residential assessment rate went down to try and maintain that 45-55 split. But again, in 2020, voters said, enough of that, let's freeze the rates where they're at and just get rid of the split altogether. Then things started to get a little funky with the assessment rate. In 2021, state lawmakers created new classifications for these rates, adding different rates for single-family homes, multifamily homes, as well as for different types of businesses. That bill also lowered the residential assessment rate temporarily for 2022 and 2023. The current rate for homeowners is at 6.76%. The way that law was written, it said the rate would go back up to 7.15%, but with the reduction in the rate, it could have an impact on the amount of money the state gets from property taxes, which is why now state lawmakers are looking to go to voters to get permission to keep additional money that would typically be refunded back to you under the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, or TABOR. And because we don't want to leave you hanging, this is a quick explanation on what TABOR is. TABOR explained in 90 seconds. Coloradans approved the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, more commonly known as TABOR, in 1992, making a big change with how our state and local finances work. Mainly, it requires any tax increases in debt get voter approval. It also limits how fast government can grow by capping annual revenue. Anything extra gets refunded. And it bans certain types of taxes, such as statewide property tax and local income taxes. Under TABOR, fees are not subject to voter approval, which is why you may notice these charges on your vehicle registration. Supporters like it because they say it holds the government accountable with how much money can be spent. Critics say it doesn't allow the state to take advantage of additional revenue when the economy is doing well and has an impact on funding roads, bridges, and schools. The revenue cap can't grow more than inflation and population each year, so any money above that cap gets returned to you. There are some exceptions to the limit. One of those exemptions includes enterprises. Think of these as businesses run by the state, like the lottery or parks and wildlife. But that exception has changed a little. In 2020, Coloradans voted in favor of a ballot initiative requiring certain enterprises to get voter approval if the enterprise is expected to collect more than $100 million in its first 5 years. And every odd year, Tabor is at the core of Colorado's elections, where voters decide on how money should be spent or if changes are needed when it comes to collecting money. And that's Tabor in 90 seconds.
And conversations have certainly come up over the years over repealing parts of Tabor. What we have seen are communities opting to de-Bruce. This is a play on the creator of Tabor, Douglas Bruce, and where communities, whether they're counties, cities, or school districts, they retain those funds that, again, would ordinarily be refunded back to you under Tabor. Of note, nearly all of the state's 178 school districts have decided to de-Bruce. Mike.